downstairs, yeah? All right.
Yeah. Well, it's there anyway.
Yeah.
Ever since I was very young, I took things apart, much to my parents' dismay. Removed everything from everything that I had, to the point that they decided to only buy me see-through toys. So I got see-through toys all the time, so I already knew what was in the inside. And after that, it kind of just went from there, like electronics kits and DIY training things and Lego. And then I learned the guitar, and then that kind of all molded together into a musical electronic merge, just that gradually built up over my life, I guess. This is the room. It's usually a little darker, but we turn the lights on so you can see everything in the videos. And you go here and you immediately see this big chunky monkey, and it is the 1000 oscillator Megadrone. It's basically 1000 analog synthesizers on a wall, and you can play things like... Just play them all at once, and you could go over and have an adjustment and a tune if you'd like, but it takes a little time to tune that, and I think we're going to be doing that tomorrow, just getting a few, just giving it a tune, but you're getting them all at the same time like this. But yeah, you get it.
Creating your own synths and all that kind of stuff?
Well, I mean, like, I guess like at school, really. Like, you know, when you build like those elastic band shoebox instruments, well, it's just a gradual growth from that. Like, I mean, I've tried to build something that was really bad out of hot glue for Robot Wars. You know, you get a remote control car, you chop it up, you put it in a box, you put another electric remote control car that moves like a spade at the front, and it grows and builds on that, and then you build stuff from Lego. And then I think the first ever musical electronic thing was Brian May apparently had a DIY guitar pedal, so I searched up the schematic for that because the internet was there at that point, which was amazing. And this was in like later in year blah-de-blah, year 10 or something like that. I just built a little DIY effects pedal, and the feeling was magical when it finally worked. It took about 6 months, didn't sound very good, but it just felt great, and then I just kept on doing it from there.
So are you self-taught?
Yes, 100%. So, I mean, the internet's taught me, so it's all from internet and books and stuff. There's a theremin here. It's currently unplugged because we're using the extension cable that goes to it, but if not, then it will be like... But next to it, there's a Furby organ, of course. Gonna fix this someday. Just my word of advice is just don't make a musical instrument out of Furbies, because sometimes they don't always want to work. But you can yeah, good old Furbs. And around this area as well, there's basically a bunch of technological oddities, like the 100 oscillator Megadrone, which is basically a 100 oscillator version of the 1000 oscillator Megadrone. It's got 100 oscillators, of course. And then you go around, there's a collection of oscillators and oscilloscopes and a bunch of electronics, various different obsolete technologies. This is always growing and such. This is the display, because it's basically a display of displays. Different types, you've got Decatrons, various different types of vacuum tube technology, Nixie tubes, and all of those funky things. And you go over, you've got more electromechanical thingamajiggies, like you just get to look at all the funky things that once were and read about them and be like, oh, that's very interesting. The first ever commercially sold drum machine, the Sideman by Wurlitzer. I think because we just recorded this, I think I might have accidentally turned it off. Come on! Oh, it's coming! It's doing it! I've been trying to do YouTube videos since YouTube sort of started, and it didn't really, I was doing it on and off, and it didn't really, well, it just didn't really work. Nobody was that interested until I decided to start doing Look Mum No Computer thing again, which was just, I just did it as a joke to start with. About 5 years ago, I was like, let's put up a video. And my partner, she was like, you should put this up. I was just shot a joke video about making a drum machine out of a tinfoil pad, like a drum pad out of tinfoil, and you covered your helmet with tinfoil and you could play drums on it. And she was like, pop it on Facebook. And I popped it on Facebook, and people thought it was funny, and people tried to do it, and that was it. There's no real reason, it just gradual, like everything else. So we've got a flamethrower organ. Obviously that isn't sadly working anymore, because I can't really set fire flames out of it. It's a bit lethal, but there's loads of things. Everything is functioning, so you could just play on it if you want. I don't know what somebody set that synth to do, but the Transcendent 2000 Sounds pretty funky. There's also just everything on the walls there, aren't you? You can hit, and you can play on them. There's old computers that are used with musical software. This one, for instance, is running DMS, which is digital music synthesizer, and it's on an Apple II, so you can play the Apple.
How has building all this stuff kind of influenced your music and your kind of writing process as well?
I've always been building this stuff with music together. It's always been a thing, but I just haven't documented. I didn't document it as much. I've been in a few bands before. I did Look Mum No Computer. I was writing songs for people and writing songs with all this random stuff. Sometimes you do more music than building things. Sometimes you build things than music, and it's just a gradual progression. Again, every answer's gradual.
And in terms of the museum itself, when did you start?
I always wanted to set it up. My grandparents, they were trustees. I don't know what that means. They volunteered at a museum up north, and when I was a kid, I used to go with my granddad around, and he was fixing stuff, making sure it was all working, and it was just inside me, the idea of museums being in the dark museum when it's closed, like the after hours kind of thing. And that was Wivensey Lighthouse Museum. That was an amazing place, and it's kind of stuck with me, the idea of wanting to make a museum. And then same time, Zebra kind of time, which was the old band, I was like, I did a Tumblr called Look Mum No Computer, about just things that I'd been collecting, starting to make, the Museum of Everything Else it was called, on Tumblr. And it was just videos of pictures of all the things that I collected. And then that just gradually built up, and the plan was always to build it into a physical museum. I just didn't know how that happened. And then 2020, I got hold of this place, and it all just went from there. It was really weird when you look back and think about it. We've got old telephone exchanges, so you can make a phone call to about 50 different phones in the whole of the museum. People and kids and stuff like doing this. It's pretty fun regardless. I'm going to try and call somebody in the toilet. Let's just call somebody in the toilet. What number is it? 6917. Let's call him. No, nobody's answering. I think they don't want to be disturbed. So yeah, nobody was on the toilet. And when you go around, there's more items and stuff. Synthesizers that are being controlled by pendulums. So this is actually controlling this synthesizer. Look. It's in sync. But yeah, you get the idea. There's loads of synths to play on. Doesn't always work. But yeah, I'm not sure what a lot of these settings are on these synths, because people are allowed to just unplug and plug things up however they want. So if you want to come and play on these and just patch and stuff, well, of course you can.
Did you have quite a lot of this stuff already? Like you built up a bit of a collection. Was that just in your house? Like where?
Yeah. It was getting a bit unmanageable, and at that point, I didn't really have a use or a reason for having all this stuff. A lot of people would be like, "Why have you got all this crap?" I'm like, "I don't know." Yeah. Now it doesn't matter. I haven't got a hoarding addiction anymore. I'm a museum curator. It's two completely different things. Buy broken, always buy broken, because if you can fix it, then yeah, you can buy things really cheap. We've got the owl organ by the Nervous Squirrel. It's an absolute beauty. So basically you could play. And of course you could change the species. What does the screech owl sound like? Screech owl sounds quite nice, and then you listen to the barn owl. Oh, horrendous. So yeah, that's the owl organ. Opposite that, there's the Game Boy Mega Machine, which I don't know what it's doing right now. It looks like I might have not turned it on right, and it's done something funny, but you can come and play on this. I promise when you come it will work. So we've got the Game Boy Mega Machine here. You can have a go. It's got spinny Leslie speakers in them. Look, there's spinning speakers. Got spinning speakers. Got a glow in the dark Etch-a-Sketch. So you could just draw on with a laser on glow in the dark with an old 1970s chart recorder, and then you can just go like crazy.
How much planning is involved in the project before you just sort of get started? So
Yeah.
Where do the ideas come from?
It all varies. So the Furby organ, initially I wanted to build it in 2011, which is over 10 years ago now, which is crazy. I started collecting Furbies for it, and then I ran out of money and had to sell all the Furbies. and then a few years later, at the start of doing Look Mum No Computer, maybe about a year in, I was like, I'm going to build a Furby organ. So I had to source them all again, and it took forever. And that, so that's like loads of years of planning. Game Boy Mega Machine was just like, I was just walking along, and one day you're like, I'm going to build a big machine out of Game Boys, and you're like, and then you get obsessed by it, and then you have to build it.
And are you figuring all that stuff out on the fly, or like, are you kind of planning out how it's going to look before you start building? Like, I don't know. What's the process, I guess, from start to
I don't really plan anything, but I know what it's going to do and look like. So this basically looks exactly like what it looked like in my head when I started it.
Yeah.
Nearly, pretty much. Vague, like, there's a few adjustments, but yeah, from the front, you just have an idea, you let your daydream, you got a plan, you don't get too perfectionist on it, because perfectionism, I find, with build machines and things, it just slows you down. There's no reason. You leave a lot of things up to chance, and then you're able to just make more cool things, because you might like it more. There's other synthesizers that you can have a go on, lots of old technology, analog synthesizers, more modulars. But bits of fun. There's the odd fish here and there, so if you're scared of fish, maybe don't come here. No, I'm joking. Who's scared of fish? There might be some people. Lots of fun. Drum machines, Korgs, lots of items to go on. You could, if you like synths, then pop over, because you can play on them all. All of the things that do things on the walls as well. I don't know what I was doing. It's driving this old 1950s school bell programmer. So this would have been sat in a school to kind of ding the alarms, the bells at certain times. They're absolutely amazing pieces of equipment, like no electronics inside of them. And then there's computers, of course. If you like computers that make music, like the Commodore 64s. You can see it on the screen. But yeah, there's a lot of different programs and such, like Cubase. So if you want to play on Cubase 1.
I think what's been really nice for us coming here is that it doesn't feel precious. Like, I think it can be quite a scary field almost if you're not kind of experienced in it, and it feels like, you shouldn't break stuff apart, or you shouldn't touch wires, or
yes.
It's kind of how you're taught. So almost coming in here and that all being removed, and it not being embarrassing if you don't know how to work stuff.
Yeah, well, it's not.
Was that an active?
I think it's just down to, I don't know, there's a lot of, I don't know what the term is, I think it's like gatekeeping or some stuff like that, where it's just like, it's fair enough, there's a certain behavioural trait of some people who are into this kind of stuff that do that, and it's sometimes a little bit off-putting, and it was off-putting for me, so I figured do it a different way, make sure stuff is safe, make sure people know that it's dangerous to mess around with things that are dangerous, like mains power. You don't open up a toaster and wriggle around when it's plugged in. You mess around with battery power things to start with and get an idea of that. But as long as it's safe, then there's no problem. That's another thing about buying broken things and non-pristine items and things that don't quite work, is you're less precious about it, and you can just mess around with it more. And it's just better, in my opinion. That's why on eBay, let's say, always look for the parts not working or like rough condition kind of things. Perfect condition, you worry it's a liability. Can you pick that up?
I can do that.
Dad, you'll hear that on laptop speakers. It's pretty good, isn't it? This whole register's pretty boomy. That's one thing to knock a house down with. Every single one of these pipes makes makes a noise. So this one, that's how an organ works. You just blow air through pipes. I can't really play the keyboard, so you'll have to, you know. This is work in the progress at the minute, this room. This is going to be more of an obsolete sound lab, so there's going to be a recording setup where you can come and record things. But right now it's just not very organised. But there's the odd bit of musical synthesizers. This has gone a bit out of tune, but you know. But yeah, as carries on, synthesizers, just synthesizers that you can play on. You can play on the synths. I've got to fix these, but there are synths. So yeah, it just keeps on going. There are more bits and bobs. There's more rooms, but I'm still working on them. So secret right now. But yeah, that is this museum's not obsolete. There's loads more other things, by the way. It keeps on getting built up to the roof. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed it and have a look around a little more.
Wicked.
It was alright. There's something to cut up from that.